wake that ass up.
Early in the morning.
The Breakfast Club.
Morning, everybody. It's DJ NV, Jess Hilarious, Charlamagne the Guy. We are the Breakfast Club. We got a special guest with us this morning.
Yes, indeed.
Sabrina Greenlee. She has a new book, Grant Me Vision, A Journey of Family, Faith, and Forgiveness, and it's out right now. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for having me.
How are you?
Good. I feel good. I feel amazing.
There you go. Now you are the mother of DeAndre Hopkins, and man, what a story you have.
What a journey.
What a life you have lived and still living.
Yes, absolutely. I'm still here.
Now, for those who may not know, you are blind, but you weren't born blind. You actually became blind after an acid attack in 2002.
Yes. I was brutally assaulted in 2002 by a young lady that, unbeknownst to me, we were dating the same guy. And I was called to a place by him one day, and I went out there looking for my car. And she came out, called my name, screamed my name, Sabrina, and she threw a concoction of bleach and mixed with red devil eye. She threw it on me. 17% of my body was burned that day. I fell to my knees, and he actually took me to the gas station about 3 minutes away, but eventually left me there to die.
What?
Yeah.
Why the gas station? Like that was just.
I think that was the closest thing that he could find. But it was just such a terrifying moment for me. And if it had not been for the gas attendant to, call 911 and get me help, I probably would have died that day.
Jesus.
Lord have mercy.
And it's a man that you were dating that you thought loved you, liked you, and cared about you, and just left you to die.
Yeah. DJ Envy, he literally was in my life for 3.5 months. So, of course, I didn't know him per se, and we really didn't know each other, but you couldn't tell me that wasn't my man. And, but he was somebody else's man, too.
Dang.
And you never had words with the woman or nothing? You had no clue, no idea?
Had no idea she existed. I knew there was some people existed. Of course, there were red flags. But I was in a place where I didn't know my worth. I didn't know who I was. And so I overlooked a lot of things. There were a lot of red flags. I mean, the lies, the manipulation, it was super present in the relationship earlier on. Just, saying he would be somewhere and he wasn't there when I got there. Oh, well, I'm here. And it was like, I remember one day I went to 3 different places searching for this man. And I look back now and I'm like, God, how low was I to connect with somebody that, eventually would have a say in almost, taking my life.
Dang. Now, the book is called Grant Me Vision. So in that moment of finding out you were blind, what was going through your head?
That moment that, of course, I was in a coma for a month. And when I came out of the coma, I was on a lot of medicines. I remember them telling me that I would be on 50 different medicines for the rest of my life. Thank God I'm not on any of them now. But just being blind and coming home to my 4 children was really, really tough. So even after I got out of the coma, I was addicted to morphine. I was in therapy. It was a lot of things that propelled me to get to the place I am now. But just being blind, think about that. Coming home and, at 31 years old, I left the house 12 o'clock, noonday, beautiful day, going to find my car. And then a month later, I come back to the same house, the same children. And I had allowed all these men to kind of come into our lives in and out. And here it is. I'm just sitting there and it's just me and them. Now, what do? Putting the pieces back together and totally blind. So it was a lot of healing that had to take place. And it was scary. Like, I'm not going to lie. It was terrifying because you are blind and you can't feed your children. You don't know, it's like I was stepping into unforeseen circumstances that we had never been in. And it was really tough. And then not only that, but just to sit there. So depression set in, anxiety. I was suicidal for about 3.5 years. I actually knew exactly how I wanted to take my life. I had played this out in my head many, many times.
How old were your kids at the time?
My oldest was 14. Keisha was 14. Marcus was 13. DeAndre was 10. And my baby was 4 years old. So I left my baby girl at the door that day, screaming and kicking for me. She wanted her mama. And I was like, go in the house. I'll be right back. I didn't come back for over a month.
Who helped you during that time? Because it's when you have family members and friends, it's easy to help somebody for a week or two, but you needed help for a lot longer. So who was in your corner during that time?
I would say there was different people. My mother was there. My father was there. Okay. People was coming in and out. It was just not one person. You know how it is. People bring the chicken, and and then when the smoke clears, there's no chicken and nothing. So there were a lot of days that my children and I were just there by ourselves and had to fend for ourselves, to be honest.
So they had to grow up fast.
Had to grow up really, really fast. See their mother in the back room, super depressed, face swole, blind, and they had to grow up really fast. They had to figure out like how to get to activities. They had to sometimes feed themselves. And as a mother, that is the most depressing thing when you cannot do for your children.
Right.
Well,
tough.
Physically, of course, you went through something, but you keep talking about the mental aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you get out of that? Because how did you get out of that mental space?
There was one day where I was fully in suicidal mode. I knew exactly how I wanted to do it, and I acted it out. So there was the road was about 4 houses up. I knew that if I made it to this particular mailbox and I made it to another one, I could count the mailboxes. So by the time I got to the 4th mailbox, I wanted to throw myself out in the road when I heard a car. And DeAndre, he just happened to wake up that morning and he followed me. I didn't know he was following me. He just put his hands on my shoulder as I was getting ready to literally go out in front of this car. Or I thought, if I could hear the car, I could throw my body out there and it just all be over. The pain was excruciating. And we never talked about it for like 10 years later. And he put his hand on my shoulder. He walked me back into the house. I went in my bedroom. He went in his. We just shut the door. And it was one of those things where it was just so strong that we didn't really want to talk about it because it was hurtful. He knew what I was going to do. And I think that was the turning point for me. I was like, how dare I leave these children? Mm-hmm. Because like the mental aspect was just so hard. Like like just sitting there day after day, having people wait on you. I had people people had to give me a bath. Mm-hmm. People had to come in and feed me. And so I was just tired of it all. That was my turning point mentally, was like, I got to get it together, because if not, I'm going to leave these children. And how dare I, leave them here? Because if people are not coming in to help us now, just imagine what it's going to be like without me.
Lord have mercy. How did the conversations go with the kids? Like when you first came home, did you explain to them what happened, or were you embarrassed to tell them what happened, or did you wait till they got older?
So embarrassed. The shame. When you live with shame, it can literally manifest and grow as big as you allow it. And so I didn't talk to them at first. It was maybe about 3 or 4 years later when I decided to just get up and say, you know what, I need to repair this family. Mm-hmm. I did this, and I need to get up and just start the process. I didn't know what that looked like. Mm-hmm. So I began to start implementing curfews. I began to start screaming, shouting. Now, the woman you see now that's all calm, I wasn't like that then. I was full of anger and bitterness. And so I was, portraying that onto my children. And I was cussing and fussing and, doing the things like that. But I needed to instill fear in them, because I felt like if I didn't do it, somebody was going to do it. Right. I didn't want to lose them to the streets. Right. I didn't want to lose them to society. And I was like, let me do something. And so I began to start sitting them down, attempting to repair my family. And I called them in the room. I have, in my memoir, I call it the Get Right Room, where I would take them in, bring them in one by one, and just talk to them. So they began to tell me later, they was like, I will do anything, keep from going in there, sitting there talking to mama for 2 hours. Because it's like, this woman is crazy. She don't care. She ain't got nothing else to do. But, but pour into us. And so it began that I couldn't go out. I wasn't in a place where I wanted to go out and people see my face, or, small town, you got the rumors. And so, but I was like, what I can control is my house. You will be in this house at a certain time. And I just remember waking up one day and the boys had did something, Marcus and DeAndre. So I took all day. It took me hours, but I myself, like hurt and all, bandages and everything, I pulled this big TV out of the room. I took the stereo. I took the door off the hinges. I was like doing anything I could to show them that, you know, when you do something, there's consequences.
Right.
I began to do that. And it just began to me sitting them down, eventually all of them. And I think what I remember the most, Charlamagne, is that I would like, hey, I'm sorry. Mm-hmm. I need you to tell me what you think, what in your mind you think I did, because I want to sit here and I want to hold myself accountable in front of each one of you. And I want to say, you know, I'm sorry. Now, I may do something to hurt you again, but it won't be intentional. Mm-hmm. At this day forward, I'm going to set my mind to be a better mother, because I have not been. And they needed to hear that. And so, you know, at first they were like, no, you know, mama, you good. I was like, no, like we need to repair. In order to repair, we have to start from the bottom up.
That's right. And
begin the healing. And I think it made a better person in me. I began to start healing when I knew that my children were okay. And just sitting them down and holding each other accountable. So, you know, at first they was like, oh, Ma, this is something white people do. You know, we're not doing this. But I kept doing it. I kept doing it. I didn't want to lose them. And I wanted my voice to be the voice that made a difference in their lives. And I would tell them, I said, you're going to continue your activities. And furthermore, what we're going to do is this will not be an excuse for you not making it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I was really, really strong about that.
You know, it's interesting. I keep thinking about, you know, DeAndre stopping you when you knew you wanted to complete suicide. Like, was that because he used to hear you talk about it, or was it just a divine moment where God just put something on him to stop you? Like, what made him do that?
Recently, we were in an interview, and he said that he just woke up. Mm-hmm. He said it was nothing but God that woke him up. He went in my room. I wasn't there, and he said, I'm never not in my room. He's like, something's not right. He went in the kitchen, and then he turned to the left, and the screen door, the door was open. Mm-hmm. He said, Mama's always in this room. And so it was nothing but God.
Mm. I got to ask a question, right? Reading the title of the book, the last thing is forgiveness. Mm-hmm. Do you forgive the individuals that were involved with taking your sight?
DJ Envy, I had no other choice but to forgive. I have totally forgiven. I walk in forgiveness. I mean, there's just no way that I could be this person had I not forgiven. Now, when we talk about forgiveness, you talk about the process of forgiveness, right? Mm-hmm. I'm sitting there and I'm mad, I'm pissed off, I'm angry, and how dare they try to take my life knowing I had these babies to feed. Mm-hmm. But what I did was I began to humanize her and look at her as somebody that you like. There's no way you could do that if you're not broken. That's right. And like something's wrong. And so what I did was I began to humanize her. I began to say her name, eventually out loud. I began to pray for her. Now that was really hard. And I have this in the memoir where I say, you know, at first, like the first thing I said was something like, you know, I'm just going to pray for her. I pray that you bless her and everything that she touches turns to gold. That was all I could mutter, right, at first. And then my prayer got stronger. I began to just pray for her. I knew that day in the courtroom that her son was the same age as my son. So you think about, she got a 20-year prison sentence. She's done 18 years of that. She's been out for a couple of years now. And just to answer your question, I knew that I had to continue that process of forgiving her. I didn't know what that looked like. It took some time. But I thank God that I did do that because I have forgiven him and her. And whatever involvement that he may or may not had in that attack, I had to put them together and completely forgive him and her.
Did he get jail time as well?
So he did eventually get a year jail time and 1 year probation. And it had nothing to do with that. There was a 3-day jury trial and she was convicted of 20 years, but he continued to stalk me and harass me. And he got a year prison sentence, a year jail time, and a year probation for continuing to harass and stalk me a year later.
So he didn't, even though he drove you to the gas station and left you for dead, there was no crime. He didn't get convicted of anything of that.
It was one of those things where we had to pick our poison.
I got you.
And so, of course, all of the animosity and frustration leaned towards her because she did the heinous act.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had to do that. He actually came in every day of the trial and testified against her, but then turned around and started harassing me, saying that you took my girlfriend. You took the person I love. I love both of y'all. Yes, I can't make this up, right? Yeah, I cannot, right? And so the last straw for that situation was he literally called me while I had 3 police officers standing in my home, and they said, they called his name and they said, repeat yourself. You have 3 police officers standing here. His exact words, I don't care. I'm going to kill the bitch.
Wow.
And they went and picked him up, and that was when he served a year. A lot of people don't know that. It's crazy.
Now, you said you forgave. One more question. You said you forgave her, and you said you were able to say her name and pray for her. Has she reached out since then to apologize, or have you had a conversation or anything like that?
In the courtroom that day, she had the choice to speak to me, and she chose not to speak to me. Mm-hmm. And in the 3 years that she has been out, she chose to go to a blogger by the name of Tasha K and speak out against me.
Wow.
Yeah. So.
Speak out in what way, though?
Yeah, how could she
in
speak
what
out against
way?
you?
Saying that it didn't happen the way that the court records, the receipts and everything, she's saying it didn't happen that way. I was stalking her. I was jealous of her and the relationship with him. A lot of things that she spoke out about. But I chose not to listen to it, of course. Mm-hmm. I'm very careful about what enters, into my mind.
As you should be.
And I'm like, I'm in a place now where, I woke up that day when I found out she was getting out of prison. I said, okay, I've been talking the talk. Now it's time to walk the walk, and so I just refuse to allow anything negative to come into my mindset. However, it was kind of hurtful because it's like, you still stuck clearly. And, if you did 18 years, at some point, reality sets in to where I need to take accountability for my actions. Mm-hmm. And that still hasn't happened, but she's not my assignment.
That's right.
And so I chose not to entertain it.
You have a chapter in the book called Justice, chapter 17, and you talk about what happened as far as him getting sentenced, but her getting sentenced, the 20 years, did that feel like justice to you?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Not at all.
So what would you have wanted to happen? What would be justice to you?
I had to come to grips with the 20-year prison sentence, but of course, attempted murder should have been the charge instead of assault and battery with intent to kill. Mm-hmm. And that would have been better. However, I feel like even though all of that happened, I'm just not mad at it anymore, because 18 years is a long time to be without your child. I was with my children every single day, right? I got a chance to instill some values in them that they still have to this day. I eventually got all 4 of my children into college. So when I look back, 20 years and you did 18 years compared to me being with my children, I'm not mad at the sentence now. I was angry then, but I'm not mad at it now.
Did it give you any peace or closure?
Oh gosh, yes.
Okay.
The 3-day trial was about a year after the attack, and so I had probably not left my room for a whole year. And I got up and I went to the 3-day trial. After that, I was waiting on the light switch to come on to be like, okay, I got justice is good. It didn't really happen like that. I was still severely depressed, but eventually it sunk in that this woman is in prison and there is some justice, and justice did prevail.
Now, you mentioned your assignment. You said that wasn't your assignment. What do you feel your assignment is?
My assignment, I know without a doubt, is to let people know everything that I went through and everything that they go through. There is light on the other side. I wake up now and I'm more happy than ever, because before, the Sabrina Greenlee was, oh, you cute, you light skinned, you pretty or whatever, but my insides was screaming for help. And I really want people to know that when you take the time to put the work in,
That's right.
to get the mental health
That's right.
counseling and the therapy, and no matter what, it is very important that you understand your worth and who you are. And so when you began to do that, oh God, it's amazing on the other side. So all that pain and all that misery that people are still, stuck in, when you can just make up your mind and make the choice to say, you know what, I don't want to be here anymore. Whether you're in an abusive relationship or it's just family members, because people be peopling. Mm-hmm. But when you
and niggas be niggas.
And what? When I tell you, listen, Charlamagne, you don't understand,
yes,
and
I
it
do.
never stops. Right?
That's right.
So it takes a bigger person to say, you know what? Let me handle this differently. Let me have the tools and the takeaways. Like I put in Grant Me Vision, I talk about things, but at the end of every chapter, I'm like, I had to write this memoir with the takeaways of people understanding, like, how I began to forgive. You can just say, I don't want to be one of the people to say, you better forgive. No, let me tell you what I've done for this Sabrina Greenlee today to be out here talking to women and ushering them into their process of forgiveness and being that woman to say, you know what, look at me, look at my life, look at my testimony. I didn't stay there. And this is how you not stay down.
Do you think it was a complexion thing that she did it because you were the light-skinned girl? And the reason I ask, and I just want to say, your strength is like no other.
Thank you.
And the reason I say that is my wife, who I've been together with for 30 years, she was cut in the face, right? When she was younger, because she was lighter skinned. She had 50 stitches on her face, 72 stitches on her leg. They try to slice her up. And when I sit back and I try to think about how would I feel and how it would have broke me, the fact that, it's your face, and how it made her stronger, and how I'm looking at this and how it made you strong. And I'm just like, the strength that you have. But I was just wondering, do you feel like it was your complexion that did it? It was that jealousy? Because back in the day, it used to be this whole thing, light skin, brown skin, dark skin thing. And it was like a whole thing. And I felt like it divided a lot of us just being black. Do you feel like that was part of it?
He's not black though, man.
I am black. I'm 100% black. Don't let him lie to you. He's joking. I'm 1,000% black.
DJ Envy, I was bad back in the day now. I mean, I'm not half bad now, but I was. But what I'm saying is, come on now. What I'm saying is, I was fine as wine back in the day.
Okay.
But so of course it has something to do with it. I mean, jealousy. I think, but now light skin, from what I'm told, she's light skinned too.
Okay.
So I don't know if that played a part in it, but definitely jealousy. I had just purchased a brand new Lexus. I had the guy. I was dancing at a strip club. And so yeah, I was.
What's your name?
Well, excuse me.
What was your I'm sorry, that was a.
You just talk about niggas. He went right back in the nigga mode.
Well, you say.
I want to know what your stripper name was.
My stripper name was it was Caramel.
Oh.
And I have a chapter in Grant Me Vision called Caramel.
Chapter 13.
You have to go to a Caramel chapter. I put you in the strip club. I literally walk you in. I put you in there, the ups, the downs, the highs and lows of what a little black girl from Central South Carolina, growing up and went through a lot of things that I won't tell you too much, but how I got to be in the strip club and the things that happen while I'm there.
And backwoods strip clubs in South Carolina is a different breed.
Yes. So back then we wasn't making it rain. We was doing the R. Kelly song in the movie. It was slow motion. Everything was like sensual and sexual back then.
And people only had $20. You go to strip club with $20 back then.
Yeah. Now people, it's like that whole. It's a lot. They work for it now. I didn't have to work for it back then.
Yes. Chapter 18 is called "Blind Eyes Can't See," and the book is called "Grant Me Vision." When did God give you the vision?
God gave me the vision when, honestly, he gave me the vision when I was most suicidal. He gave me, because what I used to pray for all the time, I used to say, God, give me vision, give me vision. And I went through this roller coaster ride of getting all of these donor cornea transplants, and then one would fail. And then I get another one. So over time, it was like I was getting I've had over 30 or 40 surgeries on my eyes trying to get my vision back. But in that moment, I used to just say, God, give me vision. I just want vision. And I think back now, I was like, why wasn't I asking for sight? Like, give me vision. And it was as though he was there with me all along. I have to give him the credit for that. But I feel like mostly as I'm coming out, transitioning out of all the drama and the depression, I was reminded that I'm going to give you what you asked for. And so when that doctor, when I sat in Miami with a really good friend of mine by the name of Humble, and that doctor told me, Humble, and he told me, he says, this is it. My second opinion, they told me that you'll never see again. This is it. Your retinas has detached. You fought a good fight. Everything that, I worked for over the years is gone. All the surgeries, I'm at the last straw. And I realized in that moment that I can't be mad because God granted me my vision. He granted me vision. And this is something, I don't know how, once again, it's like I always have this thing I say, okay, here we go. What's next? And, so this is next. I'm going to be blind for the rest of my life. But what am I going to do with this? And so the vision that I have now, I feel like no one can, not feel like, I know that no one can take away from me. And how can I be angry or mad when God granted me exactly what I asked for? I would rather have the vision I have now, going out, speaking and talking to women and showing them what the other side of death looks like. He granted me vision, and the vision I have is amazing. I mean, I literally wake up every day and I'm full of joy and I'm happy. And of course, let's be honest, I would rather have sight. I mean, who doesn't want to see? And it be taken at the hands of someone else. But this is what I have. And this is what I have to work with, and I'm going to continue working it until I can't work it anymore.
What other senses got stronger for you?
My children say I can hear really good. I think that was it. I think, but also too, just being alert and being aware of things like things that surround me. I'm hyper alert on everything around me. So I think all of them may have enhanced.
What's funny about kids? I got 4 daughters. It's not that your hearing gets better when you're a parent. It's just that when they get quiet, they're probably doing something. So that's when you just scream for them. So they probably think it's our hearing. I'm listening. It's what I don't hear is when I'm like, what y'all in there doing?
There you go. There you go. No, I think everything got enhanced.
Now after every touchdown, DeAndre gives you, the football. Talk to us about that energy and the bond you feel when that happens. Like, what does that mean for you?
It's amazing. Because of course I can't see, and so the very first initial time that he brought me the ball, I was like, he coming where? He's coming where? He's doing what? And he held, he handed me the ball, and it was just the way that he gave it to me. He squeezed my hands, and he was like, "Mom, I love you," and I'm holding back tears because I'm like, man, it just signified everything that we went through. All of the things that we went through that nobody will understand that went on under one roof with me and these 4 children. And it's amazing. Like I wouldn't trade it for the world. And so now, of course, he's on his 3rd team, and I can't always be in the end zone to him get me the ball, but he makes sure I still get my balls.
That's right.
He makes
so
sure.
You got a whole room of footballs.
Some are deflated. Some are. It's like he's in his 12th season, and but I still have those balls. And I think over time, we give them some to family members and things like that. But I have the majority.
Even from Clemson too.
We are from Clemson, South Carolina.
Even from the Clemson, the balls from Clemson.
No, not from Clemson.
Okay.
No, not from Clemson. It only started when we were in Houston.
Got you.
Yeah. So, but no, I'm from Clemson, South Carolina.
Yeah.
Proud, bleed orange.
Corner, South Carolina.
Yeah,
Born and
South
raised.
Carolina.
That's right.
Let's go.
That's right. Now, you have a chapter called "Ending Generational Curses." What were some generational curses that you felt you needed to break?
The biggest one, the most relevant one, was keeping secrets. We were notorious for keeping secrets. And so I think what stands out the most was when my brother passed away. He got shot by the police in 97. He was in a domestic violence dispute himself. 3 or 4 officers come in, open fire on him, and killing him instantly. And I never forget, my father went down there to the room that he was staying in, and there was a tape recorder. And he came back, he grabbed the tape recorder and his rings that he had got from Clemson, because he was a very prominent football player at Clemson. And he shoves this tape recorder in my hand, and he says, I don't ever want to see this MF thing again. And I'm like, God, I'm 20 something. I was like, what do I do? Well, I keep it, and I keep it for many, many years. And eventually I give it to his daughter, who grew up to be a prominent lawyer in Atlanta. But that was my way of saying, you know what, like, I want this out. And even talking about it now, I only spoke about it, now. And my father had no idea, right? I was writing a book, and I was like we can't keep this anymore. Like, this is going to infest us forever if I don't talk about this. And so I think that was one of the things I put in the chapter. I was like, you know what, talking about this tape recorder and what he left, I don't want to keep secrets anymore. So I think that was the most prominent thing that I could talk about, was breaking generational curses. And there were many more. I mean, we were in a house like, you don't talk about things. And even I was raped and molested at the age of 10. And I was told, you're not going to mess up his family. Go somewhere and sit your fast ass down. We're not going to talk about this.
It was the minister, right?
That I was raped by a reverend. Yeah, a reverend. A family member. He was a family member. And so just exposing those things. Now, it puts you in a vulnerable state. However, there is somebody that's going through these things now that needs to know, that they need to be talked about. They need to be brought to the surface, because that's the only way that you're going to heal.
Did your family believe you when that happened? Did they believe you when you
Not at all.
It was your mom, right?
Not at all. My mother and my grandmother, they totally did not believe me.
How did that change your relationship with them, if it did at all?
Well, I learned early on that I couldn't trust people. And then, and I talk about that in the book. There's a place where I mentioned that 10-year-old little girl died that day. And she was like angry and mad. And then when she awakened, she was present in every relationship, because she was the one that was fighting and cussing and mad and angry, right? She had a lot to do with how I parented my children and the decisions that I made. And so it was one of those things where I had to really get a grip on and understand that, man, like, this kid is hurting, but why? Because we were offended, we were hurt. She was molested. All of these things were present in my life the entire time.
What I would never understand about stories like that is, when you go to your mother and you tell her what happened, and the mother says, "Hey, don't say anything because I don't want you to mess up his family." So there is some type of protectiveness there that she has, but why don't they have that? Why didn't she have that for you? Why was she protecting him as opposed to you?
I think now, looking back, Charlamagne, my mom nor my grandmother had the tools to understand what was going on. And you have to think, this probably happened to them at some point.
Absolutely.
I didn't understand that then. Like, why wouldn't they protect me? And why wouldn't they believe me? And so it just began a whole whirlwind of me manipulating, deceiving, and lies. And I learned how to lie, and I was going to get you before you got me, and I didn't care who you were. I took that throughout my entire life, just about. And not understanding, and I began to not trust anybody at that point. But I still honored them, believe it or not. My grandmama was still my grandmama. My mama was still my mama. I didn't understand it, but I loved them.
I saw you say that the woman you are today, if you had to do it all over again, you wouldn't change a thing.
Not one single thing.
Really? Wow.
Not one single thing. And people, when I say that, they're like, what do you mean? You are blind. Like, you wasn't born blind. But I take all of that. And if you take all of that and you mix it up, how could I be this woman today, be able to talk, be able to speak out so bravely, so boldly, if I had not went through every single thing? So how can I be mad at that? And also, too, when you purposefully make up your mind that you are going to heal and you are going to deal with depression and anxiety and you're going to wake up whole, then I have no other choice but to understand that all of that had to happen for a reason. Every single moment, every single surgery, every single moment of pain, it had to happen, and I wouldn't change not one single thing.
You know, I know I only got a few more questions, but, you know, traumas are real and triggers are real. And when you're writing a book, you know, and you're having to relive a lot of these things, that can trigger you. But also, you know, the young woman coming home, doing interviews, that could trigger you as well. Have you been triggered by any of this stuff?
Absolutely. Okay. All of this happened while I'm trying to write the book.
Oh, Lord.
So she gets out while I'm writing it. She speaks out while I'm writing it. And I'm triggered. So they tell you when you're writing a book, Charlamagne, you may can attest to this. It's like when you unraveling all these emotions, you need to float in water. You need to get counseling. I was trying everything. I was floating every night, and nothing was working because, you know, mentally I was having to relive all of this. But I think just sitting down with my ghostwriter and saying, you know what, I'm gonna get it out. It has to get out. I'm gonna be. Because think about it, like if I don't get this out, my brothers are not here to tell their story. My fiance that I was in the car wreck with that died 8 days later, DeAndre's father. It's up to me to tell these stories. So how dare I allow them? It doesn't matter what they say. I was like, I'm not gonna let them win on this one. Nah, you can't take nothing else.
But how do you prevent yourself from writing a diss record though? Like you know what I'm saying?
It's coming.
Is it? You laughing, but is it?
If I could rap it, I would. I can't rap, Envy, but
I mean, just writing,
writing,
making sure that you know you.
My daughter told me yesterday. She said, "Mama, I'm waiting on book 2." I was like, "Really?" It took me 3 or 4 years to do this, but no, I feel like I have to. I want to keep talking about it. I want to keep telling my story every day, like. Even I wanted to make sure that in my memoir that people know I'm still struggling. I'm still going through. There's no perfect days for somebody being blind, but I'm doing it. I want people to know that I'm doing it. And so, yeah, I just want to keep that going, that energy.
Now I want to talk about your nonprofit, Smooth. Tell people about that and how they can jump into that and help you out with that and maybe support.
Oh, absolutely. So I have a nonprofit. We advocate against domestic violence. I'm in 3 states, and we really are out here helping women. I have so many stories where we go out and literally take women from shelters, organizations, agencies, and when they decide to go into their own dwelling, we provide them with financial literacy, household supplies. We do it all. And I am hands-on. Every single case, I'm right there. And so SMOOTH stands for Speaking Mentally, Outwardly Opening Opportunities. That's with 3 O's. And they can go to smoothink.org. That's with 3 O's. And every single thing that people contribute goes into these women. I really, really, really can't stress enough that my organization is built and it thrives on helping these women who have been abused, and not only abused, but have been traumatized. It doesn't matter. And it's not just domestic violence. We help all women in different facets of abuse.
When do you think, 2-part question. Were you hard on your daughters?
I was hard on all my children.
Okay.
I was a disciplinarian and I didn't play. Now, I have 8 grandbabies. I'm a little softer now, but I was super hard on my children and sitting in the house, like just sitting there watching life happen and things go by. I knew that, like I said, I had to have a voice. I had to have them fear somebody. And I have this thing, you know, I'm from the old school. I'm like, you know, you either listen to me or you gonna listen to the white man. You gonna have to listen to somebody.
My daddy said the
See,
same
people
thing.
don't understand about that thing.
My daddy would say the same thing.
You gonna listen to somebody, right?
Right.
And so, like I said, I just became a disciplinarian, and it actually paid off because, like I said, I was able to get all of them in college, and the proudest moments of my life was dropping those kids off in those dormitories and coming back home and just giving them a chance at life, a chance that I didn't have. Very important.
The other part of that question is my daddy would always I always felt like my daddy raised me out of fear and not love.
Mm-hmm.
So when did you start raising the kids out with love and not with fear?
When they started rebelling and telling me about myself and just being like, Mama, you like, you know, my boys, they were in the 11th and 12th grade. I still had them coming home at 10 o'clock. And they were like, Mama, enough is enough, man. And not only that, but just like literally telling me about myself. Sometimes you have to listen. I had the mother do as I say and not as I do. I didn't want to be that mother. I wanted to, but I also didn't want to just be your friend. And I think that me just looking at myself and saying, you know what, man, like let me give them some grace because they're not gonna do what I did. You know, these are some good children. I had to trust that what I instilled, you know, now it's time to allow them to grow and flourish. But it took some time because I was scared. I remember my daughter telling me a few years ago, she said, Mama, you wouldn't let me go anywhere. You wouldn't let me do anything. And I told her, I said, I apologize. I didn't want my story to be your story.
That's right. Last question. Your book ends with a poem from DeAndre celebrating, you know, your 20 years called The Strength of My Mama. How did you feel the first time you heard those words he wrote?
I was sitting there at my 20-year life celebration, and this is 20 years of everything I went through, the struggles and everything. And I'm sitting there with everybody that I love, and everybody had flew in, and I was just feeling amazing. I had no idea that he wrote this poem. He gets up there. Each one of my children got up and said something, but he gets up there and he says this poem, and I'm all tears. I'm just boo-hoo crying because I'm like, and he says that, he told me later that he made it up on the way there, just on the plane. Wow. He just came from his heart. I had to put that in the memoir because it was so significant to just let people know that what you pour into your children, you eventually will get back one day. That's right. And that is a poem, and that speaks so highly of me and everything that we went through. Yeah, it was amazing.
And what's the message you want people to get from this book, especially women?
I want women to know that there is a place for us. And I say us because I'm still in the fight with you. However, when you make up your mind to really forgive and acknowledge everything that you've done, take accountability, I think it's very important that when we stop pointing fingers and when we stop blaming other people and just sit down, sit in silence with yourself. When you begin to just sit in silence, look at yourself, whether it's in the mirror, whether you realize what you've done with your children, the abusive relationship that you're in, when you begin to take your power back, baby, on the other side of that, you could scream and scream as loud as you want. There's no more suffering in silence. And so I feel like Grant Me Vision portrays all of that, the ups, the downs, the journey of a young Black girl who didn't know who she was going through all of this. But I am you, you are me. And like I said, on the other side of that is happiness, is joy. And I feel like when you can just understand that when you make the choice, no one can make that choice for you, but there is so much happiness on the other side of that pain. And I want everybody to go get Grant Me Vision because I want you to just see my journey. It wasn't always, like this, but I want you to just really go grab Grant Me Vision today and really, really dive into it. There are so many takeaways, so many tools in there. And I want you to just follow my journey and see how I navigate through life.
Mm-hmm. Man, what a testimony you got, Sabrina. And I tell you something, you know how to promote a book, okay? If you ever listen to somebody promote a book, when they do an interview, if they keep referencing the book, they know what they're doing. That's right. Okay?
Come on.
Right?
Grant Me Vision out today.
That's right.
Wherever books are sold.
Sabrina
Thank you.
Greenlee, ladies and gentlemen. Grant Me Vision,
Tell them how to follow you, too.
Family, Faith, and Forgiveness is out now. How can they follow you?
So I'm always on Instagram, Sabrina Greenlee 12. You can go and I'm cooking, I'm dancing, I'm doing any and everything except for driving. Sabrina Greenlee 12 on Instagram. And again, you can go to my website, smooth, that's with 3 O's, inc.org.
All right. Well, it's Sabrina Greenlee. It's The Breakfast Club. Good morning. Thank you.
Wake that ass up.
Early in the morning.
The Breakfast Club.